This is part number 3 of a series about Judith Butler on her book, Giving an Account of Oneself. And this chapter is number 2, called Against Ethical Violence. In the first 2 videos, I was talking about imagining us as individuals, us with certain belief systems, who are transported back to the 1900s, where groups of people are treated poorly. They're oppressed because of innate categories they didn't choose, such as their sex or ethnicity. We, in the 21st century, think that all people should be able to attend school, no matter what type of race, and all women should be able to vote in any election. So when we go back to the 1900s, these beliefs are not dominant culture. So what do? We believe that all women should be able to vote, but the current society that we're transported back into doesn't believe that. So what do? Do we voice our opinions against these injustices that we see? Or do we withdraw from society and do not help others push against the current normative frameworks that oppress certain groups of people? Butler talks about the limitations and the boundaries that all individuals need to deal with. We all need to appropriate norms to become recognizable subjects. Let's just say, to be a recognizable female, most females wear tighter clothing, they either have longer hair or they wear makeup. There are social constructions that females take on, appropriate, to take on this ideal feminine portrayal to easily become a recognizable female. There are individuals who do not, though, buy into either gender construction. So in public, they become a less recognizable male or female. They are ambiguous. When you're ambiguous, you're risking being a recognizable subject. They become a less recognizable male or female. They're ambiguous. When you're ambiguous, you risk being a recognizable subject. You risk others thinking that you're something that you're not. But that's not a bad thing. It's pushing and messing with the limitations and boundaries that are currently in place. When we get transported back to the 1900s, we have a choice to play with the limitations and boundaries that were currently in place. We can be active citizens who voice their opinions and demand that these injustices are not right. And currently, in our present, we also have an opportunity to play with the boundaries or play with the current normative frameworks that all work on us as individuals. So this chapter is about ethical violence and trying to work against what usually happens. If we look throughout history and notice that even in today, our current situation, the tyranny of the majority, or the current herd mentality, or the normative behaviors and beliefs on how one should live their life, Butler says, is participating in ethical violence at times. When we're transported back to the 1900s and we do not voice our opinions on how this is wrong, we are instead withdrawing from doing anything to help people. We then are participating in allowing ethical violence to occur, and we're not doing anything about it. So this knowledge is something that we all have to deal with, and I deal with this every day as I grow wiser and more aware of the injustices in our current reality. And we all have to figure out how to help or deal with these problems our society faces. And unfortunately, we always have to be in the state of overcoming these normative frameworks that are promoted by the 1%, promoted by the mass media and the tabloids, panhandling for our attention, to absorb celebrity culture, to get us to buy in and to make us think that it's the right thing to want a bigger house, a bigger car. These normative belief systems promoted by mass media and our friends and even our loved ones who are influenced by the normative frameworks really affect and work on us as individuals. And we constantly have to be in the state of overcoming, rooting out, seeing through the illusion to find out what is truly behind the curtain, reminding ourselves to question what it really takes to make that microwave, What are the socio-political economic factors that really went into producing that piece of clothing? These items didn't magically appear in front of us. They have a history, and sometimes when we look back into these material objects' histories, we see so much oppression and we're participating in it. So we all have to deal with this problem. We all have to deal with these normative frameworks that are constantly influencing us to be certain people. We have to constantly root out these ideologies that are shaping us to discover the truth. John Stuart Mill tells us to experiment with the boundaries so we can discover new experiences of how to live, new modes of being. It's hard not to follow blindly, to not see past what mass media is influencing us with, if we do not challenge ourselves, if we don't read or critically examine our thoughts. And if we just instead believe whatever is fed to us, just instead we believe whatever is what our master feeds us or tells us is cool or how to be. This is something that we all have to work on every single day, and it's not something that we can just be cured of. There's no right or wrong way to live our lives. It's just, do we oppress others in our life, in our lives? So when we subject ourselves to multiple perspectives, which Friedrich Nietzsche calls perspectivism, then it's hard for us to be the sheep, to follow the herd, to follow the majority, to just blindly be okay with living in the normative frameworks of our time. Because as we know now, herdist mentality, the majority's view, when we just blindly follow what other people tell us to do, this produces ethical violence. Just imagine fascist Germany. Imagine being a citizen in that time period. Herdist mentality just conformed to whatever Hitler and the fascist authority told them to do. But it's not just them, it's throughout time. And the US is no righteous authority that's always done the best thing. When we go back to 2008, for example, our normative laws within that time jailed 2,500 occupiers of Wall Street, but not even one banker from the financial industry that destroyed 40% of America's wealth. Isn't that crazy? Most Americans didn't do anything to voice their opinions. They just allowed what occurred to happen. So we participate in ethical violence when we are participating and knowingly doing it, or knowingly allowing one group to oppress another. So are we going to allow powerful groups to dictate our reality, our daily lives as political agents, or do we find the inner strength and muster a state of confidence to be okay with speaking publicly about what we truly think is right? Because we can always say no. We don't have to participate in ethical violence. We don't have to allow authoritative governments or authoritative regimes or corporations to treat its citizens, to treat its customers and populace the way that it does. Strength is found in numbers. We need to unite. We need to educate, and we, most importantly, to act.